Okay, moving on to stakeholders for projects as a key project dimension. Why don't you kick us off?
Sure, let's dive in. Stakeholders in project management are individuals or groups with an interest or stake in the project's outcome. This includes the project team, sponsors, customers, end users, and any external parties affected by the project. Effective stakeholder management involves identifying these parties, understanding their needs and expectations, and engaging them throughout the project lifecycle to ensure their support and satisfaction. Balancing diverse stakeholder interests is crucial for project success.
Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, stakeholders critically include or can include the buyer and also the ultimate user or the ultimate benefactor, depending on how you define it, of course. And they will require special treatment as well. But what do you think about the sort of classic standard way of just thinking about stakeholders and managing them as, if you like, on two axes? You know, an alignment to the project axis and a level of influence axis.
The classic two axis model, mapping stakeholders by their level of influence and alignment with the project, is a practical approach for prioritizing stakeholder management. It helps project managers identify which stakeholders require more attention based on their ability to impact the project and their support or opposition. Those with high influence and low alignment need proactive strategies to mitigate risks, while those with high alignment can be leveraged as project advocates. However, this model can oversimplify the dynamic nature of stakeholder relationships. It might not fully capture the nuances of stakeholder motivations or the potential for stakeholders to shift their position over time. In your experience, how have you balanced this framework with the need to adapt to changing stakeholder dynamics?
Yeah, great point, great question. Often it's such a static thing, isn't it? Or maybe updated once a month. So, okay, well, I've got three things that stakeholders make me think about. I tend to emphasise, which are often, in my opinion, obviously underemphasised during project practice. So, look, why don't you try and guess? You know a little bit about the way I think on projects, right? So, try and guess one, and we'll go through all three.
All right, I'll give it a shot. Given your interest in nuanced project approaches, I'd guess you emphasize the importance of understanding stakeholders' underlying motivations and concerns beyond their stated positions. This would allow for more tailored engagement strategies that address the root of stakeholders' interests. How close am I?
Yeah, you're very close. So, all right. So I'll give you 1 out of 3 on that, i.e., that's 100%. So the way I would describe it, that's well described, is that you need to remember when you're a project manager that it's completely a two-way process, and so that stakeholder communications, if you like, is has to be a two-way thing. I've even noticed that I noticed it most um, it was most obvious to me when I met a Stratcoms company, a strategic communications company, and the irony for me was that it all felt very very one way. So it's, if you like, a broadcast rather than a broadcast and reception. So yeah, very very good. Right, so I've got two more. Um, I'm not expecting you to get these, obviously, but we might as well carry on with the game while we're doing it. So I've got another one that's very closely allied to that around the viewpoints. So do you want to guess what that is?
I'll give it another go. Perhaps you emphasize the need for active listening to truly understand stakeholders' perspectives. This involves not just hearing, but also interpreting the underlying concerns and feedback from stakeholders to adapt project strategies accordingly. It's about creating a dialogue where stakeholder input genuinely influences project decisions. How did I do this time?
Really good, right? So wasn't what I was thinking of, but yeah, absolutely, that's implicit in my first one. You know, sort of context, interpretation, like hermeneutics, building a common language with the stakeholder community. But yeah, no, the viewpoint one I've got is that I like to build, if you like, a representation of the different stakeholders' broader interests, often out with the project, so that what you can then see is you can then often then see, if you like, similarities and attractor points within the stakeholder community of their views, which don't necessarily correlate with the project. But if you don't see those, then you really won't understand what's happening in the broader stakeholder community, because your project is only one data point in a much richer tapestry, if you like. So I like to build this broader viewpoint and interest representation. Yeah. So thoughts on that?
That's a sophisticated approach. Mapping stakeholders' broader interests provides a more holistic understanding of their motivations. By identifying commonalities and attractor points outside the project context, you can craft engagement strategies that resonate more deeply with stakeholders' core concerns. This can reveal opportunities for collaboration and alignment that might not be apparent if focusing solely on project specific interests. It also helps anticipate shifts in stakeholder positions, as broader trends may influence their perspectives on your project.